For those of you joining our conference, I just want to welcome you all. Today is Tuesday, the 23rd. This is a conference session of part of the 60 by 25 conference, implementing team-based challenges in college and career pathway endorsements. My name is Juan Gonzalez. I'll be facilitating this discussion, and I look forward to kind of communicating with y'all and having a lot of fun during this session. So this is going to be the agenda for today. We're going to do a little bit of brief introduction of the panelists. They're going to introduce themselves, kind of their background and things of that nature. I'm going to give a little bit of a background on the team-based challenge, the college career pathway endorsements, the notion of competencies, the dictionary definition, and other things to consider. We'll also then we'll pivot into kind of a deep dive with the Illinois HOSA and the ISTI STEM challenge. And then we'll conclude towards the end of our session with some question and answers regarding what was presented here today. And just a reminder, I am recording for everyone, and this will be available after the fact as well. So I really want to start us off. So my name is Juan Gonzalez at the bottom right of the screen. I am the Pathways Director, Education System Center. In a prior career or prior role, I was at in the City of Chicago Mayor's Office, the Director of Youth and Education Policy, which included the high school portfolio, opportunity youth, work-based learning, and things of that nature. So why don't I go ahead and have April and Dr. Nana Bonsu introduce themselves first, and then we'll pivot over to ISTI.
Hey, good afternoon. I am April Sonnefeldt, and I am currently serving as the Executive Director for Illinois HOSA, and I've been in that role for about 7 years. And I am a CTE teacher in the health sciences, and I have been doing that for a little over 25 years. So I've been there for quite a while. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, April. I'm Dr. Nana Bonsu. I'm also part of the Illinois HOSA. I'm the Chicago Regional Board Representative for that. I have been teaching health sciences for 20 years, and I've been on the board for about 4 years. And I hope that whatever we show you guys and present today can be of some assistance to you moving forward. Thank you.
Emily and Becky, if you can go ahead.
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. I'm Emily Cooper. I am the director of the Illinois Science and Technology Institute, and we're looking forward to talking about our STEM Challenge program today. I'll pass it over to Becky.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, excited to be here and talk through our STEM Challenge specific program. My name is Becky Goldberg. I'm the program manager for our STEM Challenge program. And previous to joining the ISTI team, I had the honor of being in the classroom as a 6th and 7th grade math teacher. So excited again to be talking about what we can bring to your classroom this year.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So I want to kind of just pivot us into a little bit of a background on kind of the team-based challenge, competencies, and definitions. So this slide right here, what you're seeing here is a kind of a standardized template or framework that the state has begun to implement in various kind of programs of study, pathways, and it's going to be a statewide framework for the implementation of pathways. Well, at Education System Center, what we came to discover is that there was a lot of high school districts, a lot of colleges implementing what they termed a pathway, but there was a lot of variance to kind of that definition or the implementation of it, right? With the passage of the Post-Secondary Workforce and Readiness Act in 2016, we start to see a little more commonalities and a little more common frameworks and foundations to the definition of a pathway. So what has happened is in the state, through the Post-Secondary Workforce Readiness Act, through programs of study, through the implementation of CE, and started to collide around this notion that a pathway has some individualized student planning, some obviously career-focused instruction. Career-focused instruction meaning, yes, CTE, career and technical education, but also broader than that. So one example I commonly give is AP Computer Science. In many school districts, not normally funded as career and technical education, but any reasonable person can understand AP Computer Science as a career-focused course in IT or business, for example. Pathway also has a very robust set of work-based learning opportunities, and some of which we'll get into soon. And a good pathway also has pays attention to core academic courses So such as English and math, but also kind of social science and science, and how those courses are complementing the career focus and work-based learning opportunities. And in a properly created pathway, the things I always like to emphasize is that a student starts in the secondary space and proceeds to and through post-secondary institutions, earning kind of new credentials, increasing their skill level along the way, such that they're able to kind of achieve high-level market outcomes by the time they graduate with a degree or with a certain industry credential, be an active member of kind of our economic society. Prior to the Post-Secondary Workforce Readiness Act, there wasn't really a way for a student to indicate at the high school level that they had kind of some specialty or kind of success in a pathway. So the state created this notion of a college and career pathway endorsement. This should not be confused with the teaching endorsement that teachers earn on their credentials in order to teach certain occupations or certain roles as teachers. This is much more, should be thought of more as like a high school minor, high school major, things of that nature, right? This pathway endorsement is going to be something that student earns through kind of completion of a pathway at the junction between high school and post-secondary. And it's actually going to be something that is marked on their diploma, high school diploma, on their transcript, and also as a sticker in their kind of very fancy diploma as well. Now, when a high school student graduates with this college and career pathway endorsement, they can earn it in one of 7 categories seen here on your screen: finance and business, information technology, so on and so forth. What you should know is that these 7 broad categories are kind of the endorsement areas of the state that they've been adopting and implementing in a variety of funding opportunities, grants, CT instruction, so on and so forth. But there's also subcategories within these areas, right? As you can imagine, in human and public services, for example, a student can earn a pathway endorsement in education, but also criminal justice, and similarly with the other categories as well. For each of these kind of endorsement areas, I do want to emphasize that the state has done a significant amount of work at creating a set of competencies that a student should display upon earning the pathway endorsement. And these competencies are broken down into technical competencies, meaning the competencies that a student is unique to that industry sector that a student displays. These competencies are normally drafted or made with the help of employer partners, academics at the high school and post-secondary level. And they indicate a competency such that the student should be able to enter into an entry-level job or immediately begin post-secondary education in that industry sector. These competencies are not unique to the technical competencies, but there's also a set of general employability competencies that are tied to the endorsement, where the student should be able to display a set of general soft skills, employability skills that indicate the readiness to join the workforce or begin kind of seriously participating in workforce activities. This slide here on your screen is a little more detail about the requirements for a student to earn the college and career pathway endorsement. And once again, these requirements are broken down into the 4 categories of the state pathways framework that I mentioned earlier. There's requirements around an individual plan, professional learning, otherwise known as work-based learning, requirements around career-focused instructional courses, and requirements around the academic readiness. In today's session, we're really going to be focusing on the requirements for professional learning or work-based learning. And in particular, you'll see that for a student to earn the pathway endorsement, they have 3 primary categories of work-based learning activities that they must complete. Some career exploration, which you think of as like a career fair, job shadow, things of that nature. A career development experience, normally thought of as like an internship or clinical placement, for example. But in particular, there's now this new requirement of something called a team-based challenge with adult mentoring. And a student must complete at least 2 of those activities before they graduate high school. I'm going to get into more detail about what is a team-based challenge and what are the requirements to kind of fulfill that requirement of a pathway student. So, when people ask me, what is a team-based challenge, or does this count as a team-based challenge? I always refer to them as go to the Career Pathways Dictionary, right? As the state agencies that you see here on your screen, in coordination with Education System Center and other kind of employer nonprofit organizations in the region, created this Pathways Dictionary that kind of guides a lot of our understanding of work-based learning activities. For those of you who have access to the slides here on your screen, when you click on the dictionary image, it will hyperlink you to a link for the dictionary that you can download and save on your computer as well. as evident through there. Now, in the Career Pathways Dictionary, there is a big emphasis and introduction to a work-based learning continuum. And what this work-based learning continuum kind of stresses is that students should start early on in their academic setting with some level of work-based learning or professional learning that is low touch, meaning that is easy to implement, low intensity with employers, and over time, students should progress along this continuum to higher intensity, higher difficult implementation, work-based learning activities, potentially culminating in kind of the Cadillac of work-based learning opportunities, such as an apprenticeship, a pre-apprenticeship, or things of that nature. You'll see here in the middle of the work-based learning continuum, the notion of a team-based challenge, which the Career Pathways Dictionary defines as a group problem-based learning project relating to an individual's career area of interest that involves a problem relating to employers within that area, including mentoring from adults with expertise in that area, and requires the individual to present the outcomes of the project. All right, well, let's deep dive what that actually means in reality and in practice. So some things to consider based on that definition, right? A team-based challenge requires mentoring from adults with expertise in the area. When I talk to folks kind of who are implementing pathways and work-based learning activities, in particular team-based challenges, we emphasize that you really have to partner with some employers or other experts in the field to mentor and kind of supervise the problem-based project of the young people or the students. And it can't just be folks in the that are already in the classroom. So it can't be just that CTE instructor that is normally teaching a course or something, or the after-school coordinator or the teacher assigned to the after-school club, right? Employers are obviously the best opportunity to engage in this problem-based learning. But what I also remind folks is that you should also consider general post-secondary experts, right? One example of that would be a college professor, a college fellow, kind of graduate student, adjunct faculty, things of that nature would be reasonably considered an expertise in that industry sector and could help mentor students for a project. The next bullet point is presenting the outcomes of the project. For this, you should really think about like a Shark Tank style presentation or kind of culmination of the project. Well, obviously, there's going to be a little bit of a variance on the intensity and the audience for such presentations. We're going to get into some examples of that kind of through ISTI and through Illinois HOSA as well. One thing that we often mention for folks looking to implement team-based challenges is that it can be embedded within an existing course. And if you can do that, there's actually a very high upside in equity by embedding the team-based challenge into a course, right? The idea being is if it's embedded as a part of a course, the student no longer has to seek out individually or through extracurricular activities the opportunity to earn the endorsement by kind of completing the team-based challenge. Moreover, by embedding it within the course, you can have a certain kind of commonality of experiences, equal access to resources and things of that nature. You'll see here and link to the slide deck some examples of team-based challenges that are closely tied to a course. Some of those examples are tied over like a year-long experience, like in the case of incubator. Some of those are kind of tied to smaller kind of short-term experiences within a course as well. But I would be neglecting the opportunity that a team-based challenge can also be earned as an out-of-class, extracurricular activity as well. Some classic examples of this would be if students attended an Educators Rising conference, participated in a robotics competition as part of an after-school club, or participated in something like mock trial, which I did in high school as well, and was an after-school club in my high school. Mock trial would count for a team-based challenge for a human and public services, for example, endorsement pathway area. So I want to kind of highlight some innovations and some kind of increasing access to resources. So here at Education Systems Center, we've decided to kind of put our skin in the game, so to speak, and we've created a team-based challenge that we're going to be facilitating and partnering with school districts in the realm of education. I want to give a big shout out to my colleague, Heather Penzak, for kind of imagining and writing out this team-based challenge, which is a draft of which is linked here in the slide deck. But essentially, she envisioned it as a 4-week experience with kind of increasing engagement by ourselves and coaching of the young people leading to a project presentation. It took her about a month to kind of create with feedback from our staff, and we're going to be looking for kind of partners for this over the next spring semester as well as upcoming academic years, and we're pretty excited. I also want to highlight a unique kind of new innovation that has resulted or kind of been a unique opportunity as a result of the pandemic. We have kind of launched a pilot with a platform called Practera. This is a technology-enabled platform for virtual and hybrid work-based learning. There's a link to an information session here if you'd like to learn more. But the idea is we are kind of creating a cohort of communities throughout the state that are implementing a work-based learning activity, either a career development internship experience or a team-based challenge, and using the platform to make sure students are completing the required tasks and aspects of the career development experience or the internship opportunity. If you're interested in becoming an additional pilot for such an opportunity in the future with us, I definitely want to encourage you to sign up on this page with the link at the bottom to our Illinois Work-Based Learning Innovation Network. Essentially, colleagues here at Education System Center have created a network of communities throughout the state, school districts, community colleges, workforce agencies, things of that nature, where there's a shared community of practice around work-based learning with an added emphasis on equity, equitable social capital for Black and Latinx students. The sign up to kind of find out more about the work-based network or potentially kind of gauge more interest around the Practera pilot is on this page. And we also wanted to highlight, we're going to have a further additional session around team-based challenges and kind of deep diving resources that we've created around this in April. So I encourage all of you to sign up and kind of become a regular participants in our network. With that, I want to take a brief second to kind of check the chat box, but also allow folks now from Illinois HOSA to jump on and kind of introduce us to their team-based challenge experience through Illinois HOSA. So with that, I pivot over to April and Dr. Nana Bonsu.
Thanks, Juan. So HOSA Future Health Professionals is just that. It is for students who are interested in the healthcare field. So we fit right into that health science technology pathway. We can go ahead and skip the little introductory slide. We already talked about that. The mission of HOSA is to empower those students to become leaders through global health community, through education, collaboration, and experience. So you can see how we are going to tie in perfectly with those team-based challenges. As a career and technical student organization, we are considered a co-curricular organization, which means we try to tie those activities into the classroom. While we are right now mostly in the secondary classes, we are starting to build some post-secondary chapters. Some of the common classes that are available in the high schools: Introduction to Health Science or a Health Careers Orientation class, Health Science Technology entry-level classes, medical terminology, nurse assisting, medical assisting, phlebotomy, the Project Lead the Way biomedical engineering courses. All those tie in perfectly with HOSA. A little snapshot of what we are looking at right now. We have about 46 chapters statewide. Again, most of those are secondary. We have one chapter at UIC right now, but several other post-secondary groups are starting to come on board and be interested in starting chapters. 3 major events that we host. The Fall Leadership Conference is primarily leadership training for our students. And then we have a preliminary round of competitions which lead to our state leadership conference, which will include workshops, presentations from career areas, and then our competitive events program. And that's the part that we're going to kind of focus on today, because that piece is what's going to tie into those team-based challenges. Our competitive events program is broken down into 5 different categories. The health science events are primarily knowledge-based tests. So these are just multiple choice type tests that the students will take. But as you can see, a lot of different topics are covered in this. And these are a lot of the different units that are covered in the health science classroom. So great tie in there. The second category, the health professions events. These are all skill-based events. This is a great opportunity to tie in mentors from the healthcare field that can work with these students on these skills. I am a certified athletic trainer, so I work very well with my sports medicine students. I do not know how to take care of a dog. I do not know how to lift and restrain a dog, So we contact local vets to work with those students to help to build those skills. Okay. Emergency preparedness events, exactly that. Emergency and public health events. One thing I do want to point out, there's a little asterisk by some of these events as they pop up. Those are events that are designed specifically for special needs students. So we have categories that can fit any kind of student, any kind of interest, and as you can see, many different careers. Leadership events, individual events that focus on speaking and writing skills. Research poster is a brand new one, and Dr. Bonsu is going to chat about that in a little bit there. But another great opportunity to mentor someone to perform some research and develop a presentation poster that can be given to the community as well. And then the last category are our teamwork events. And obviously teamwork-based challenge, this is where it's going to be. Any of these competitions would tie in perfectly with those team-based challenges. They're teams of 2 to 4 students. It works well when they have a mentor involved that help them plan their presentations, help them practice their presentations. So lots of categories, lots of events, many things for the students to get involved with. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Bonsu, and he is going to focus on some of these specific events and how they definitely tie into these team-based challenges.
Thank you, April. Next slide, please. All right, so one of the main events, one of the first events that we want to discuss is the clinical specialty. Now, the good thing about this event is that it's going to require the student to actually call on a lot of the skills that they've been able to obtain over the first years of hands-off training in their classrooms. Again, what we've done is that being this type of challenge, they can use those skills that they've learned in the classroom, and therefore they can start developing that career portfolio. They can then use their technical skills to create a video, and as you can see, to demonstrate a skill that they have selected. Now, this is a clinical specialty now, so they're going to pick a particular clinical skill that they've selected and help demonstrate that. In order to properly demonstrate, as April alluded to, they are going to definitely have to depend on individuals from the community as mentors, not just their instructors, but people that also are not in the classroom, so that they can actually see what they do on a day-to-day basis. For example, they're going to have to interview that individual. They may even allow that student to take pictures of them performing that particular task for the clinical specialty, or them seeing a professional perform that clinical specialty. And mind you, HOSA has safeguards in there to protect privacy of the individuals at those institutions. Finally, after they've gathered all of these things, they will make that portfolio with all of the items that are in it, and then present it to the judges, explaining why they've actually wanted to do that in the first place. Mind you, this is not something that the instructor makes the student to, forces the student to do. This is something that the student would want to do based upon their interest in the medical field. Right, go to the next slide for me, please. All right, so now, another one of these challenges is the MRC Partnership. Now, the MRC Partnership is the partnership for the Medical Reserve Corps. And what I would like to do, I want to put actually the link of MRC in the chat for everybody if you want to do some further research there on that. And what this does is that, again, it provides the students or the members of HOSA an opportunity to use the skills, gain more knowledge, and use the skills to actually make a difference in their community. So they could become part of an actual unit to assist in times of need. Now, we all know what happened down in Texas, so I'm quite sure some of the HOSA students and members who are part of the MRC team have probably had their units activated to help during this time. Again, team-based challenges mirroring real life events that they're gaining in the classroom and being able to translate that into, again, real life events. And so they can develop these partnerships with local MRCs and they can plan events with local MRCs. Again, what they would do after they develop this partnership is create their portfolio, what they're doing, what they learned, and then present it to the judges, in which there's a rubric that the students have to follow to make sure that they're doing things not just for winning per se, but also to make sure that they understand the steps needed to properly and professionally present themselves and the skills and knowledge that they've obtained. Can you go to the next slide for me, please? All right. Now, as April said, we have another event. Mind you, we have 50 plus events. So we have another, so we're not going to talk about them all, but these are just a few of them. So we have the research poster. Now, just by name, we already know what that's going to require. They're going to research a particular topic that is a health-related issue in their community. Now, we already understand that students live in various communities around the city and the state and the country. And so therefore, we understand based upon that demographic, the health-related issues in one particular community may not be in another. Those needs may vary based upon where they are. All right, so therefore, they will look at their community, research what's going on in their community, what dangers or what trends are in their community, and then pick a topic and research that. So they have quite a while to research that before they present it. While they're researching it, again, we're going to encourage them to go to their local alderman, go to their local state representative or senator, or even their local health department, so that they can research that opportunity, gather that mentorship, again, with the partner agencies, and then of course, using that data locally, regionally, and nationally, start composing what this poster should be by looking at this data. Again, we're pushing them towards evidence-based so that it's just not how they feel. So to gather that data and then create a poster, 36 by 48, to present that to the judges based upon what they've researched. So we feel, again, that's an excellent team-based challenge. Next one is community awareness. So this requires the students to really come up out of their comfort zone and actually not just research what's going on in their community, but also to educate their community. Again, now they have to learn now how to actually, based upon their ideas and what they notice in their community, be able to verbally articulate. So they're going to collaborate with one another, collaborate with community partners, and then verbally articulate what is plaguing their community, or what is, like, for instance, vaccinations, why these are needed. And so that we can look at these related issues, especially this one of national interest, again, during this, pairing them up again with mentors and other people in their community to assist them with this, especially the public health department and local politicians and local businesses. Develop that portfolio and then present to the judges. How did they get that out? Did they make a video? Did they make a quick little ad? Did they make flyers? Again, to help them get the word out, because we want them to understand that medicine and healthcare is not just cutting and pilling and things like that, but it's also educating. So again, we're trying to touch on all bases here for our team-based challenge. And again, the list is long, and I know April's going to give you the website a little bit later on, and I'll let her take over from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bonsu. Before we move on to the affiliation piece, just a little follow-up. I have a group that's doing the MRC challenge this year. It's the first time that we have done it. And I helped them kind of set up that first meeting, and then it was on the students and the coordinator for MRC to continue setting up those meetings. I've not been involved in one of the meetings since they got started, so they've been kind of handling it. But one of the things that came out of their conversation is a need for our senior community members to have access to apps for free rides, for free food delivery, for things like that. So one of the projects that the kids have been working on, we're compiling a list of those apps that the seniors would be able to access easily to get some of those free services for themselves. So just to tie into a little bit more about that MRC partnership, it's been a cool partnership to watch these kids develop. All right, so how do we get involved with HOSA? Chapter affiliation is normally, like I said, within a school. So at the high school level or at the collegiate level, you need a chapter advisor at the high school, preferably a CTE teacher. At the collegiate level, it's normally a health science dean or a professor in the health sciences. You need at least 5 members to get started and a set of bylaws. It is relatively inexpensive to get the chapter started because there is no affiliation fee for the chapter itself. It's all individual membership. So it's $15 membership per person, which pays for national and state membership fees. If they attend the fall leadership conference, that's $30. It's a full day workshop with lunch and a t-shirt. Always got to have the t-shirt. High school kids love the t-shirts. And then the state leadership conference is, in a normal year, when we can meet in Springfield, is $90. It's a 3-day conference. It includes 3 meals, programs, awards, t-shirts, speakers, entertainment, all of that. Transportation and lodging costs are the responsibility of the school. So it's relatively inexpensive to get this thing going. As you get into the competitive events program, there will be some purchases that you want to make, reference materials, practice materials, things like that. And Dr. Bonsu might be able to speak to this a little bit as well. I've slowly built my library, a couple of books here, a couple of books there, slowly gotten mannequins over the years. So it's expenses that kind of you can keep building to help build your program. Dr. Bonsu, you want to add anything with that?
Actually, I want to piggyback on something you said earlier. One thing that we know about HOSA, again, especially with the team-based challenge, is that it is instructor guided, student run. So the students have to therefore take on the responsibility of literally, like people were saying, requesting these needs that they have based upon their interests. And like she just alluded to, based upon what we see their interests are, we start developing this library. Again, just like April, I have slowly over the years just about accumulated all of the HOSA resource material, which slightly changes. But you know what? The students start to sometimes grab it when there's no HOSA around. And we realize, hey, we have you, we want you to understand this. So again, by the 60 by 25, it actually ties into that as well. The interest is there. Obviously, it does have a cost. So sometimes we do fundraisers and things like that to help offset some of these costs. And I know that there are certain things that are covered with the Perkins grant, but April's going to talk about that.
Yeah, so where do we get our funding from? It definitely is on the kids' end of things, a lot of fundraising at the high school level. But the Perkins grant, because we are a nationally recognized career and student organization and an ISB approved CTSO, Perkins fundings can be applied to some of these things through your local districts or your EFEs. Membership fees for special needs students, so those students with IEPs, and conference registration fees for CTE students are 2 things that I know definitely can be pulled from Perkins funding. So something to keep in the back of your mind. And I think we're about done. So yeah, there's some links to the HOSA website. For a local advisor, that local advisor link is awesome for activities to get started, how to affiliate, how to get your chapter meetings going and things like that. And then the competitive events program, that has the guidelines for the over 50 some events that we have available. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to email us at illinoishosa32@gmail.com. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. One quick question, April and Dr. Bonsu, is do you guys have examples of chapters without a CT lead at the high school level? Is that possible or just not common at all?
No, it is definitely possible. There are some high schools that run their HOSA chapters as more of an extracurricular activity. So they run it after school. Generally, it's a science teacher that has run it in the past, anatomy, physiology, biology, somebody that has a little bit of that base knowledge related to the health sciences. So yeah, it is possible to have a chapter not run by a CTE teacher.
I will also throw out a popular chapter that actually just got started is Walter Payton. That is a school that does not have a CTE program, but their science instructors have taken on that as, like she stated, an outside organization or a club.
Great, thank you. That rounds out kind of my question. If I welcome folks to kind of chime in with additional questions or concerns in the chat box. If there's nothing further, I will also definitely be moving on to ISTI. So thank you. Go ahead, Emily and Becky.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone. I am Emily Cooper. I'm the director of the Illinois Science and Technology Institute, and I'm here with my colleague Becky today. We're really pleased to tell you how we implement team-based challenges at our organization. We are a STEM-focused nonprofit. We're headquartered in Chicago, but we serve the entire state of Illinois. So we work with, in the program we're going to be talking to you about, 20 high schools from East St. Louis to Peoria to Decatur, Williamsfield up to Round Lake, over to Moline, and a good cohort in Chicago. Our long-term goals are to create a more robust, diverse, and inclusive STEM talent pipeline with shorter-term goals of creating lines of sight to future career paths, teaching students about different career pathways, and then helping them to build workforce skills through high dosage, high engagement, mentoring partnerships with companies. So today we will be telling you about our STEM Challenge program, which is how we achieve all of this. So next slide, please. Before we play the video, just quickly as a synopsis of the STEM Challenge program, we partner those 20 high schools with 13 of the most innovative companies across the state of Illinois. So you'll see later on who those companies are, but we are really, again, going for that high dosage engagement where company employees are serving as mentors on a long-term basis to work alongside students. And we thought we would give you a peek at what that looks like, hearing directly from our program participants.
Let me see if I can share with sound, I think.
Wonderful.
I've never done that before, so that should be
no problem. If not, we can move right along and we can send that out.
Okay, let's try this out. So then share screen. Is that working?
I don't hear it.
Why don't you go ahead, Emily, and try to share? If the folks at ISTI could share, maybe that might be helpful.
Yeah, Becky, are you able to on your end? And if not, again, we can send the video around afterwards so you can take a look. And it is also on YouTube.
I would say go ahead, Becky. Share your screen or what have you and go from there.
All right, let's try this.
The best part about this project was that we got to actually create something of our own. In most classes, we don't get the opportunity to do that.
STEM Challenge is the most authentic type of learning that we do at our school. I think students are engaged in the learning process at a higher level than they would in almost any other activity.
We just wanted to create a product that helps the farmers of America.
The password reset bot will be able to secure CPS students' accounts and set up their security questions.
We had this CME challenge that pretty much centered around derivatives and futures and stocks.
I'd like to ask everyone today in the audience a question.
The STEM Challenge is an event that we have sponsored at AbbVie. It's become something that we and our employees really look forward to every year.
The left arm of the glasses will be a power button. There will be a green light to indicate whether the glasses are activated on or not.
Our students got to talk to scientists, engineers. They got to come today to present at Google. It made the whole experience much more real for them, and it's something that they have just been so excited about.
At AbbVie, we know that mentoring is an incredibly important part of the educational experience.
I feel like every mentor I've had, we create a bond.
You're able to learn from the students, you're able to contribute, there is a meaningful difference, and it's a collaborative effort.
You got to think outside the box. It can't be like a simple answer. You got to do something better.
The goal of this challenge was to drive job site safety and efficiency by creating an innovative app or product,
usually for beginners who just started to do workouts at home.
First activity, crunches. Come on.
There are many events in which first responders don't show up to a crime scene on time.
Since our drone will have a camera, we will be able to see what's going on at the scene, detecting any faces or actions.
It's a unique network opportunity that they just don't typically experience.
Exactly what we're hoping to achieve through this project is to bring the uniqueness from each individual and being able to build a collaborative solution to the community.
Really enables us to spend some time with the students to open up for them some doors from the standpoint of STEM education.
Perfect. So you were able to hear from our program participants. This was obviously 2 years ago when it was safe to be in person, but we wanted to show our last video that really reflected the true nature of the program. And next slide, please. So goal alignment, how we really connect with team-based challenges. Again, we are all about industry partnerships, bringing the real world into the classroom and having mentors work alongside students on a long-term project. So that high dosage leads to high impact, and that real world context and the building of those STEM skills comes through this long-term engagement. So students are doing hands-on problem solving alongside their mentors. They're learning not only career paths that exist at the company in general, what are the career opportunities, but how their mentors got to that position, that it isn't always linear, that it doesn't always involve a 4-year degree. And they're getting all of that through, again, getting to know their mentors through that long-term communication. And then we're looking to increase confidence in their STEM skills. For us, that isn't being in a lab. For us, that is communication. We really like being the access point for students who might not otherwise have the opportunity to learn about a company in depth and to work alongside company mentors. It is teamwork, critical thinking, decision-making, collaboration, and all of those other skills that each year our companies are telling us they're looking for out of the future workforce. So speaking of our companies, on our next slide, you will see the companies that we're working alongside this year. All of them are giving the students very, very different industry problems to solve. So you saw in that video, some students had a physical build. Some of them had maybe an app, or they were connecting their solution to Alexa. What it looks like at the end is not as important for us. This is about process over product for us. So you might see here, Microsoft, a lot of students would identify Microsoft as a STEM company, but they might not think of CME Group and working with futures and stocks as STEM. They might not see Allstate, who's doing data around mobility, as STEM. So all of these companies encompass STEM. So it's also really opening their eyes to the breadth of opportunities that companies offer, STEM companies they might not think of that are in their backyard. How we do this is through these main components. So these are authentic industry challenges. We aren't cooking something up. We aren't thinking through what would be fun for students to learn. We're creating an organic conversation where we're learning from companies what's core to their business, what's innovative in their industry, what they could use youthful new voices on. We also make sure that our participants are prepared. This is a very different way of teaching and learning. Our teachers go through a mandatory day-long professional development where they're getting CPDU credits, doing human-centered design and design thinking workshops, learning how to provide communication resources to their students. Again, this might be their first access point to communicate long-term with mentors. So how do we help them to do that in a really efficient way? We're also doing trainings with our mentors. So our mentors go through a best practices training as well. They're experts on their field and what they're doing day to day, but not always on communicating that with high school students. So we're giving them best practices to have really meaningful relationships with students. And also we do a DEIA and trauma-informed mentorship training so that our mentors are able to come in empathetically and create a safe and supportive environment for all of our students. Students, again, are working in teams, and by this, we don't just mean with each other, we also mean with their mentors, who we want them to consider teammates. We really want there to be equity in terms of being able to share and provide feedback and learn from one another. But those teamwork skills dividing up roles, which Becky will talk about, is also what some of our companies tell us they're looking for. Then that ongoing mentorship. So you might wonder, how do we do that? This sounds great. We would love to have ongoing communication, but professionals are busy and they're not always located near enough to the school. That's where our mentor matching engine comes in. So this is our online platform that safely connects students and mentors through their projects. So teachers invite students. We background check all of our mentors for safety purposes. Teachers are able to see all communication, and then students and mentors can collaborate through back and forth discussion, document sharing, and video conferencing. So we have 2 set programs. One of them is students doing independent research on this platform. So everything from AP research, which uses the platform really well, to nanotechnology, to animal science, to the social sciences, are using our platform and working with mentors. And then our STEM Challenge students are connecting directly with the employees serving as mentors on their team through the platform on a weekly, at least, basis. And then pitch and presentation, they are sharing out to each other, to their peers across the state. They are sharing to their mentor team and getting that real feedback. And we ask our mentors to keep this real world. So is it feasible? Could they see this being a real solution in their industry to the problem presented? Our showcase celebration is where all of our high schools and all of our companies are able to see what the innovative companies across the state are providing in terms of problem statements for students to solve. Peers are learning from each other. So what students might think of as a community solution to a problem in East St. Louis might be very different from what students in Williamsfield or Chicago or Round Lake are coming up with. So that peer-to-peer learning and the ability to see all of the innovation across the state is a really exciting day and another opportunity for students to elevate their research and gain those presentation skills. So I will pass it over to Becky to talk more about the program.
Awesome, excellent. So while our programming is truly designed to break down those traditional barriers of high dosage mentorship, students really center our work, and we recognize that in STEM especially, there is no one right way to be in STEM. So we try and build that into our components as well. So at ISTI, we firmly believe that there's no one right way to show up in the STEM industry or in the STEM space, but that idea is not always intuitive or apparent to our students. So we work hard again to build that components into our programming to allow students to develop their own identity within what they see as their future and their potential. This includes building in multiple choices within a STEM challenge document. So even if a group is working with Microsoft on something like their Power Platform, they're able to choose from multiple different capacities of using that technology. So it's relevant and resonates with them and their interests. We also work hard to recruit a diverse representation of both roles at a company and with backgrounds, races, gender, sexualities, so that they can serve as mentors for our students and really exemplify that there's no one right way to be there. As we label ourselves as a STEM challenge, a team-based challenge, we also recognize that simply putting students in groups or throwing mentors in the mix does not mean that it's going to magically be successful and perfect. So we work through a lot of structure to both support our mentors in this capacity, but also our teachers and students. One way that we do this is look at how we can differentiate to really use the strengths of students within their team. So at ISTI, we support our teachers in looking at how to create the right types of groups so that they have a successful outcome. So here are just a couple. I'm going to show you a few more, but one of the ways that we look at grouping our students, as Emily mentioned earlier, we look for about 3 to 6 students per group. Each of those 3 to 6 students will work with anywhere from 2 to 4 mentors. And then within that group, we hope that they rise to the challenge of ownership and responsibility by taking on some of these roles. So some of our past suggestions have been looking for a student to act as the guide, keeping everyone on track, or having someone step up as the translator, being the key person to communicate with their mentors. And again, they're all building these skills for communication, networking, articulating their ideas, sharing their thoughts. A visualizer, someone for really looking at the creative side of it, a strategizer. And again, these are just suggestions we wanted to share, but we hope that within group settings, there are expectations, roles, and responsibilities that allow our students really to kind of step up to the plate and work alongside these mentors as teammates. Now, looking at some of our statistics too, and understanding why you would want to engage with the STEM challenge, besides its alignment with the team-based potential. And so we look at impact and tangible transformation. So we know that for our students, confidence is a leading indicator for pursuing this type of career, this STEM space in the future. 90% of our students come out more confident in their STEM skills. I also want to highlight that about 72% of our program participants, our program students, reported that this was their first time working with professionals in this capacity. So we know that this is an access issue. There's a pressing need for this type of programming, and students need access to be able to work with mentors
person often cannot find it elsewhere. We want to build their capacity to communicate, network, and truly immerse themselves in the industry that's of most interest to them. Then furthering this, we also look at what our corporate partners want out of these challenges, and 100% of our STEM challenge mentors agreed that they valued their company solely for providing skills-based volunteering. So this means that corporate partners, mentors want to participate with schools, want to engage with their local community, but often lack the logistical resources to make that a reality, which is where ISTI can really serve as that bridge between what's happening in the corporate sector and what's happening in the classroom. And then lastly, 100% of our teachers reported that their students improved STEM skills. So we want to change the way that we're bringing the real world into the classroom in an effective and successful way. So then thinking about how to partner with us, something to be mindful of, we at ISTI are recruiting companies on an ongoing basis. However, the STEM challenge is a supply and demand model. So if you have existing partnerships already, for example, if you have a robotics team and a mentor from Boeing shows up each week to support those students, or you host a career fair and you have people from all over kind of volunteering to step up, those are great roads that can lead you to expanding the partnership. So what you can do then is come to us, set up a meeting to facilitate an introduction. We can help expand the partnership and kind of get to who we need to within that corporate sector, oftentimes living within corporate social responsibility or some other sectors in there, again, to look at how this can all fit together. So then keeping in touch with ISTI, if you're interested in kind of seeing how this all plays out, especially in a virtual world, go ahead and give us a follow on Facebook at the ISTI, or follow us along on Twitter _the ISTI. You'll see event promotions, check-in points, celebrations of our student work so that you can see it kind of in real world action. And then we have some upcoming events as well. I'll put the link in the chat coming up, but I want to highlight the second bullet point that we have a STEM challenge showcase. So you don't have to take our word for it. You can see this in action, especially in a virtual year. That's on April 29th. It also went out in the 60 by 25 newsletter a couple days ago, and I'll place that event right there. But this is a virtual adventure this year of having our students present in this capacity. And then also kind of backing up to that first bullet point, Emily mentioned we host a second educational program. Again, it is mentor focused, connecting students with adult mentors in education capacities, industry capacities, and that's our student research showcase on March 18th. So lastly, if you have any interest in getting in contact with Emily or myself, I'll leave this up here. And otherwise, thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to seeing how we can connect with all of you in the future.
And Becky, there were just a few questions in the chat. One is that they would love to learn, Heather would love to learn more about the mentor training. So if you could briefly talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Heather. That's a great question. So this year we had the honor of working with the Darkest Horse, which is an organization based in Evanston that looks at how we can have radical inclusion, not only technology spaces, but really in corporate spaces overall. So they partnered with ISTI and they delivered a train the trainer model training for us over the course of 2 days, where we learned really how to embed ideas of DEIA, but also trauma-informed strategies within how we present our materials to students and how we present and prepare our mentors to work with our students. So we explored everything from how does white supremacy culture come creeping into the classroom through things like perfectionism, or this idea that there's only one right way to do that, and then antidotes on how to combat that. But also looking at, in a virtual world with everything our students have gone through, how do we psychologically and physically support our students in a safe environment? And how do we orient them where we understand they may come into the classroom and math is not the thing they can focus on, or the STEM challenge is not the thing they can focus on, but how can we build relationships of trust and kind of meaningful engagement from there? So definitely check out the Darkest Horse if you're interested in learning more kind of on their trainings, or contact us specifically too, and we can kind of talk through that process with you.
And then there was one other question from Juan, but our wonderful CEO, Colleen, is actually in this presentation and helping us answer questions in the chat. So thank you, Colleen. And Becky just shared the Eventbrite link. If you're interested in seeing the STEM Challenge showcase in person, all of the companies, all of those schools, other stakeholders in the STEM ecosystem, it's a great way to see that student impact firsthand and to see the growth that the students have gone through and to learn about the innovation going on in the state. So we would love to see anybody there.
Thank everyone for joining, and I encourage you all to follow Education System Center's Twitter page and LinkedIn page, and to be a part of the Illinois Innovation Network, and to reach out to our wonderful partners with their great programs, and hopefully we can continue to work towards pathway implementation together. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.